amigos, ¿cómo están? Soy Dinora Olmos de Latino Education Advancement Fund y hoy les traemos una entrevista al estudiante Alan Ramírez. Espero la disfruten. ¡Comencemos! Esta tarde tengo con nosotros a un estudiante. Su nombre es Alan Ramírez. Hola Alan, ¿cómo estás? Buenas tardes.
Hola, estoy muy bien. Gracias por darme la oportunidad para hablar con ustedes hoy.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you so much.
Ujú,
One of the things that I wanted to do is I'm going to do this interview with you in English because I am
ujú.
also very interested in some other students that maybe might not be able to understand everything in Spanish. I want them to feel comfortable with with in English. Vamos a hacer esta entrevista con Alan en inglés y algunas cosas las voy a preguntar en español y él puede contestarlas en inglés o en español como él decida, pero queremos que en esta ocasión la entrevista va a ser en inglés, sobre todo porque queremos que otros estudiantes, sobre todo estudiantes que quizás no dominan el español, lo puedan entender. Así que, bueno, primero que nada, déjenme decirles, conozco a Alan García desde que perdón, Alan Ramírez, desde que estaba en cuarto año más o menos. Y recuerdo la primera vez que lo conocí, fui a su casa y me presenté con sus papás y les pedí a sus papás que le dieran permiso de ir a un programa de verano. A partir de entonces, Alan empezó su carrera, empezó la carrera para ir a la universidad. ¿Por qué? Porque se empezó a preparar constantemente para lograr algo que siempre había querido. So, Alan, tell us about when did you start thinking about going to university?
So, um, to start off, like both of my parents, none of them went to university or college. So it wasn't really something we talked about at all up until I want to say like the eighth grade, where you told me about this opportunity, which was this program called the Johns Hopkins CTY Scholars Program, which helps first generation students and also low income students have the resources to be able to apply to college. And it was really that program that really allowed me to see how I would be able to go to college and really take seriously the ability to apply to college starting from the eighth grade, which to some people might seem really early, but the college application process is very long and very complex. And I think it's important that children or students have these conversations with adults and their parents to be able to apply to college at a really young age so that they're best prepared to be able to apply to schools that can really help them out, schools with a lot of resources and that are highly selective, and that can really help set them up for their future.
Yeah, I agree with you. Pero tengo entendido que tú estabas tomando, por ejemplo, el examen ACT lo tomaste en el grado
Mhm.
7, no
Yeah.
nada más en el 8, sino desde el grado 7 tú empezaste a tomar el examen ACT,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, correct.
And that gave you a good scores to be admitted into the citywide program.
Yes.
So now tell me, if you think about now and you take back 2 years, so tell me, when was the moment that was the most stressful for you applying to universities? What was the worst moment?
I feel like the most stressful part for me was honestly the summer because in my head I was like, where do I even start? I know I have to start early with applications. At that time, I was thinking of applying through QuestBridge. So at that time in my head, I was like, where do I even start? And that's when I started like reaching out to different like mentors that I had, seeing like what first steps I can take. And that's when I started like writing essays, but at the same time looking at what colleges I wanted to apply to. So I think that was the most overwhelming part because there's so many choices out there in terms of schools that you can apply to. And I was just like, how can I narrow it down to a good list of schools that I know have things that will help me grow as a person, and I know I need to focus on when it comes time to apply for like supplemental essays and things like that.
So what makes you this for you to decide not to apply to Questbridge?
So during the summer of my junior year, I knew that I took on a lot of things. So that summer I took on an internship, and at the same time I was also doing a summer program that lasted like I want to say around 6 hours a day. So I had a lot of commitments, and because of those commitments, I wasn't able to have enough time to write essays that I knew were strong enough to get me into those highly selective schools. And not to mention, at the time, the school that I wanted to apply to most was Johns Hopkins, and they weren't a part of Questbridge, and I knew that I wanted to apply early there. So I ended up deciding that in order to put my best effort forward, and so I really had the time to focus on my applications, I would apply early for the schools that I really wanted to apply early to, and then apply regular for the other schools.
I see. And was there any university as part of Questbridge that you would have thought, okay, yeah, I really would like to do this for to get an early start?
Yeah, so actually the school I'm going to, which is Haverford College, is a Questbridge school, which honestly is kind of funny thinking back at it now, which I would have definitely have ranked had I done Questbridge. But there were also certain schools that I would have definitely liked to apply to just to put my foot in the door. So yeah, definitely there are still really good schools in Questbridge that I would have applied to.
So if you if I were a student and I asked you, okay, Alan, tell me, would you recommend me to apply through Questbridge or not? What would you suggest?
So I know some people who got matched with Questbridge, like some of my friends and some of my friends who didn't. And what I got from most of them who did apply to Questbridge is that they dedicated their own time during the summer to actually like do their application. So I say if you have the time during the summer to really put in your best effort in terms of writing essays, getting your recommendations down, and you already know what schools you want to apply to, really go for the opportunity, because Questbridge is a really good opportunity for us low-income students because it provides us with a full ride to some amazing schools out there. But I would say if you have a really busy schedule, you could still apply early to some schools, or if your top schools aren't a part of Questbridge, then maybe consider, looking at other options. But I would say if you have the time, if you really have the time to put in the effort, please apply to Questbridge because it is a really good opportunity. I myself did the college prep program. So during the spring of that same year, I was able to really get to know all these different Questbridge schools and see how great they are. And a lot of schools that I did apply to were also Questbridge schools, even if I didn't apply through Questbridge.
So let me go back a little bit. So
Mhm.
you did go to Questbridge summer program.
So they have this program called the College Prep Program, which basically takes in juniors during the spring. And I participated in a conference. I'm pretty sure most years it's in person, but because of COVID, it was online. And I was able to do a lot of workshops in terms of like resources for low-income students and knowing how to apply for financial aid. But I was also able to attend different like events for specific schools to get to know them. And honestly, through Questbridge, I was able to learn about so many highly selective schools that were academically rigorous and I knew would interest me. So even though I didn't apply through Questbridge with the college match program, having the college prep program really helped me figure out what schools I wanted to apply to in the fall.
That is good, but now, like you said, students need to start looking into that when they are in 10th grade, correct?
So that program is you start applying fall of 11th, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what about essays? Le vamos a preguntar un poquito sobre
Mhm.
los ensayos. ¿Cuántos ensayos escribió él? How many essays did you ended up writing? Because I hear all these stories about the students talking about, essays here, essays there. And, I have some students that said, no, I didn't want to write two or three and then just adapt each for each university or whatever. But actually they ended up writing a full essay for each of the ones that they applied. What did you do?
So I honestly cannot count how many essays I did. It was just so many, and I know some people did like reuse certain essays, but what I found is that most of these like highly selective schools have very specific prompts and things that they're looking for, so that won't really work for everyone. And prompts can be as short as fill in the blank sort of questions, and they could be as long as write a 600-word essay on this certain thing. So I mean, very it took a lot of time to write all of those essays, and that's why I think it's very important that during like the summer you really narrow down what schools you want to apply to, so you could start as early as you can. And a lot of times schools reuse prompts from previous years, so you could already look at those online, and some schools already have those published. So I would stress already having a college list down by the summer before their senior year, so that they can start early, because it is a lot of work to write all those essays, and you don't want to be the person who the day before they have to submit are still writing their essays and still reviewing over them. So for me, the best thing is to start really early and know what you want to start writing about.
So tell me, can you share with us a little bit about the essay that you feel proud of, the one that you wrote and the one that you feel that it really got the attention? What was all about?
So my main supplemental essay, I was toying with a bunch of ideas, but what I ended up writing about was sort of my relationship with English and Spanish, having to translate it from a young age, and also connecting that with what I want to do as a career. So for me, I wanted to go into health policy and talking about health disparities that affect minority populations. So I talked about my relationship with language and how difficult it was for my parents to like access health resources. And I was able to find something close to my own identity as someone who's bilingual and who also is Latino, and connecting that with a career that I want to look into when I'm older. So I think it's really nice when you're able to connect your own identity with sort of um, talking about like what you want to do in the future. So that's what really I think worked for me.
That's great. Now, did you have someone that look over your essays and guide you a little bit or edit, or how how did you manage that?
Yeah, so I had like two people who helped me like at the same time. So I had my advisor from the Johns Hopkins CTY Scholars Program who had helped me like look over the essay. And I also had a mentor through another program that I did called Thrive Scholars, and both of them really sat down with me, and I would reach out like, hey, I have a new draft for my essay. Can you please look over it with me? Like, what do you think? And they also helped me like narrow down my ideas, because I had a lot of ideas of where I wanted to go for my main essay. So it was nice to have two people to talk to.
Yeah. How did you how the I find sometimes that students, especially Latino young men, have a hard time asking for help. Do you find that problematic, or you didn't have any problem with that?
Wait, give me one second. Sorry.
That's okay.
Um, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. I have noticed that some students, especially young Latino men, have problem in asking for help, or they prefer not to get anybody's help and they just want to do it on their own. Did you have problem with that, or you didn't have a problem asking for help?
So, I mean, for me growing up, I was always like the really shy, like nervous kid. And then like in elementary school, I realized that if I'm not willing to advocate for myself, if I'm not willing to talk to adults, then I wouldn't be able to have access to all these resources that can help me. And, being a student who already is Latino, who's bilingual, I was already at a young age forced by my parents to talk to adults for them. So like, even it would be small things like even at the grocery store, like, can you ask the worker for help in English? So, having that background, it wasn't as difficult as you think to be able to ask an adult for help. And I found that like just reaching out just helps a lot, especially when you're stressed, because a lot of times it's easy to just feel alone, especially when you're taking on something like applying to college. It's very easy to isolate yourself. And in the end, a lot of these adults that are around you really do want to help. And the worst thing, honestly, that they could ever say is no. But most of the time, I found that people don't really say no, especially when you're asking them for help, because not many people ask for help in the first place. So,
That
yeah.
is really true. That is really true. You are right.
Mhm.
I know that you went to visit a couple of schools and they actually invited you, actually even sent you their line ticket and some other things.
Yeah.
So tell me, did you feel that they were reaching out to you and they were taking you over there? How does that make you feel?
It honestly makes you feel really good. And we're already applying to all these really highly selective institutions who have a lot of money. So this comes back to not afraid of asking for help. When I wanted to reevaluate my financial aid offer, I would just reach out because again, the worst thing they could say is, no, we can't reevaluate it. But these schools have a lot of money and it's really good to be able to take advantage of these resources, and it was nice. I was able to fly all the way to Maine, which is like the farthest that I went. But even the school that I'm going to now, like they bought me a train ticket to come visit. So, don't be afraid to ask. And most of the times they will already reach out to you to see if you want to come visit. But if they don't, find your admissions officer and see if you could come visit, because most of the times if you're already on financial aid, they can help pay for your ticket either through train or through plane or through however to come visit.
Wonderful. Another question to ask you is that, so do you remember those meetings or those interviews? Do you recall maybe a specific question that made you feel a little nervous and how to answer? How do you practice for those interviews?
See, I can't really think of one question, but through like the CTY Scholars Program, I like talked with my advisor and I asked her like, can I get preparation for interviews? And I would be asking to have like mock interviews for literally anything. So like the internship I did last year, I asked, can I please do a mock interview? When applying to other programs like Thrive Scholars that would help me, I asked, can I please do a mock interview with you? And even for schools, I asked again. And honestly, it just gets easier with just practicing and practicing asking questions. And it also helps when sometimes programs have, or sometimes, I'm not sure if schools do, but sometimes on their own website, they have certain sample questions that they'll probably ask you. So just looking over those can help. And I would even do mock interviews with my friends, like we do them together. So we'd get like on FaceTime and we each ask each other questions and like rounds to help prepare ourselves on answering those difficult questions. And by the time I got to my interview, I would always already feel confident with answering whatever question came my way. And although sometimes I would stumble, I would always feel confident going after an interview because I already had that practice beforehand.
Do you recall a just one of the questions that they asked you?
Mhm. I think one of the most difficult questions they could ask you is like talk about like one time you've made a mistake. And it's always difficult to like talk about times that you've like been wrong. But for me, it was always important whenever they'd ask me that. In the end, I talk about like how I made it past that and how I was able to be resilient past like a situation I had in the past. And I would always like push for people when asked about questions of like negative things to try to end it in a positive way, even not even just with interviews. Like if you're talking about writing an essay with a heavy topic, make sure to always talk about like perseverance and ending in a more positive note so that they can see like how strong you are as a student and how strong you are as a person.
That's right. It is very
Mhm.
important. How important do you think that it is your attitude?
I think it honestly is so important because when you're applying to these schools, you're presenting yourself, you're trying to put yourself out there. And I think just having a positive attitude, just feeling confident really shows those schools, hey, look at this student. I think they could really fit into my school because they're so like strong and they're out here just putting themselves out there. And I think it looks even better when you're a student who is Latino, who comes from a low income background, because we already are resilient and we're already like looking towards these opportunities, and they can see how strong we are and how much we want this opportunity. So I think just adding on that positive attitude, saying that yes, I can do this, even if you like get rejected in the end, just even showing that yes, you can do this, they'll see, oh yeah, there are students that can definitely come to our school and make an impact.
Wow.
Mhm.
Last question, but very important.
Yeah.
How much important was your extracurricular activities or your community involvement?
Oh, honestly, they're so important. I know like some people see it as a chore, but it shouldn't be seen as a chore to have to apply to these activities. And you have to remember, at the end of the day, you shouldn't do these activities because you want to look good in college. They also help with feeling closer to your own community. They help you have so many friends. And I think it's just important to put yourself out there, because a lot of times, like, it's so easy to just be at home and just stay on your phone all day. But just having that like extracurricular activity really helps you get involved with the community. And then in the end, schools look at these activities and they're like, wow, this student is really committed to multiple things, not just their studies. It just adds something else to showing how they are.
Can you share with us one of your community engagement activity?
Yeah, so one of my activities was being a part of my school's Spanish Honor Society. My senior year, I was president. And what I really liked about that sort of activity was because I was able to share parts of Latin American culture through that club to students who were studying Spanish in school. And we were also able to like offer different like community service projects. So that included things like tutoring ESOL students at my school. So I think I was able to make a lot of friends there. And I was also able to share a lot of parts about my identity and also help my own community at the same time.
That is wonderful. So I guess, can we count on you to help us with our Impulso program and kind of do mock-up interviews?
Yeah, I could for sure offer myself up. I think it's so important to be able to hold the door behind me and offer these opportunities for everyone, because, without programs like this, without organizations like this, I wouldn't be able to be at the place where I am today and be able to, you know, have all these opportunities with me. So definitely.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. Thank you so much for all your enthusiasm and how resilient you are. And I wish I had been at your graduation. I know that you received so many awards, and I am so proud of you, and I want you to know that your entire community is very proud of you, and we will have to have a party for all of that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you so much for this interview, and hope to see you soon. Don't forget that you are gonna be part of the speaker at
Yeah.
the 6-6, a la sexta cumbre académica educativa para padres y estudiantes. Ahí te tenemos, ¿verdad?
Sí, ahí estoy.
Ok, gracias, Alan. Hasta
Gracias.
luego.
Bye.
Bye.